I'm hitting recording on my end. How's it going? It is Nate Mumford, Director of Sales Engineering here at RCS. Quarantined once again at my house in Danbury, Connecticut. Today is a special day. I am really looking forward to this. We have Brian Willard, head of our Field Technician Services team, and Brian is just a wealth of information. And I thought that today we would showcase some of the things that RCS has done during COVID-19, talking about our field technician staff, talking about upgrades, installs, all of that good stuff. So if you have any questions, be it hardware, installs, conversions, or any of that good stuff, Brian is, as I said, just a wealth of information. And any questions, feel free to comment below. And welcome to another installment of our Q&A in the Time Remote Workflows. Yeah, how you doing, Brian? How's it going?
Good. Thanks for having me, Nate. Glad
Absolutely.
to be here.
So a couple of little housekeeping things to get to first. Of course, you can always email us live at rcsworks.com. You can comment below with any of your questions for myself, for Brian. Every RCS product is open, so if you have any questions, feel free to ask away. As I said, Brian is just a wealth of knowledge. So if you want to talk about some installs, conversions, all of that good stuff, we could talk about that. We are going to show our brand new Field Technician Services portal. In case for my own purpose, if I say FTS, that's what the Field Technician Services team is. The FTS team, it's just easier to say than all of that. So the FTS team, essentially, those are the I would say guys and girls who go and install your Zeta installs. They convert all your databases and all of that good stuff. So before I forget, we do have just a reminder on our RCS Zeta cloud-based disaster recovery. We do have that special still going on, $99 a month. Receive one free Zeta Go license, I should say, for as little as $99 per month. And you get that free Zeta to Go license. So if you're worrying about, those too many seats and all those users, it's really, really cool. Plus, it's that insurance policy on your radio station on top of it. If you have any questions, reach out to your local RCS sales rep. We'll be more than happy to help you. And as I said beforehand, get your questions in too for Brian. We'll be answering those throughout the session, probably about 20 or 30 minutes or so, just so you know. So what we're looking at here, so Brian, I have in one of our Zoom sessions, is sharing his screen here. And let's talk first, Brian, about we're looking at the FTS, the brand new portal that's being released soon. But let's first talk about when COVID-19 happened. What did you and your team do for safety measures and precautions? How did that all play out when it first rolled out?
Well, of course, as you know, Nate, it was rapid. It was, one day we were, out doing installs, and we actually had people still in the field, part of the team, when lockdown started to go into effect. So we've been fortunate that we've been very busy the last couple of years. So we had a wealth of installs already booked for the next couple months, and then, so of course it was just the immediate scramble is, do we go forward with these? We have people spread through different parts of the country, all different corners. So of course, listening to, what was going on from, state and federal officials, and then internally, because of course, safety for not only our team, but for, everybody we may come in contact with, including our families, clients, all that. So we first had to sort of see, could we finish the projects? We did. So we did, we wrapped up those, and then sort of, saw, some of the installs that were on the schedule and worked with our customers, almost to the last minute to say, okay, now we're going to postpone these. Mm-hmm. So at that point, we sort of started to revisit, well, how can we move forward? And of course it was, both internally and with our customers, can we do installs in 2 weeks, 3 weeks? Because you remember when this first started, we didn't know if it was going to be a stay at home for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. They just started going there. So it was really chaotic for a little bit trying to figure out, and me being sort of the manager and the project manager of this, not being able to plan, as you know, Nate, my schedule that we're usually working 3 to 6 months, how we're going to do this. So, but the good thing is we were very adaptable and flexible. We had to be in this job and in this company and in radio in general. So we, as soon as it was figured out that we would not be able to do on-site installs, at least for the foreseeable future, and this was towards the end of March, we're like, well, how can we pivot and how can we start doing some things remotely? As you know, and so anybody who's on here, we do a lot of the pre-work and pre-install. We do a lot of stuff remotely already, even for an on-site. We do conversion stuff and we do some basic setup, because I always say it's not worth our time, or especially our customers' time, to go on site and watch progress bars. We can do that sitting at home. So we already had a lot of what we could do on an installation remotely. And so it was just taking maybe how much more can we go? How much more can we push? Can we get 75% of it done remotely? Can we get 85%, or can we get all the way across the finish line? And so that's when we started, not only just, just Portal, it didn't come about just because of this. It came about, this has been a long time in the making, as a way to gather information, because that is one of the biggest things that we have to do is, contact the customer, find out what's your traffic system, what's your music scheduler, what audio cards are you using, what external devices, what FTP sites, all the stuff that, is outside of, the automation world and the music scheduling world, but we have to interface with every piece. So a lot of that, because we've not so much gotten lazy, but just because we were going on site, and sometimes customers, it's easier to go and pound on their door and get that information from them. And so it was a lot of always back and forth with emails and that kind of thing, gathering, and we never quite was able to get all of the information till we went on site and pinned them down and explained it. And so this has been a long time in the making. We were like, well, how can we do this better? And the fortunate thing is, we had some time, because we did have a little bit of a gap there when we were trying to install. So let's finally push this across. So this, this was great on our development side, Corey and Di and everybody, and Neil, who said, okay, let's finally push this across, because we've been busy and it's been something in the hopper that we've been wanting to do. And what it's allowed us to now do is put something together that will gather more information and get us farther along that process, so we can now do more stuff remotely. If not do an install 100%, maybe now we can hybrid it more. We can do more stuff remotely, and then we can go on site, because we have been able to complete a handful of installations completely remote. And I want to make sure, I know that you've been saying that in some of these, calls and our other sailor, we are still doing installs.
Absolutely.
We've had a couple people question, are you guys doing it? I've heard, it's suspended. No, we are still doing them. And we are back doing on-site installations in the right scenario, because of course, it's just like any situation. I compare it now to when we would travel internationally. There's different rules and laws and paperwork to when you try to, get into a different country or anything. And so it's almost that way now when we're traveling different parts, of this country, because we have to make sure that, one, there's hotels open. There's, we have to get on flights, and there's a lot less flights, and we have to make sure that the safety precautions are in place, just not for our team, but for the folks on the sites as well, and everybody we come in contact with. So we are back doing installations, and we can do them remote. If that's what you want, we can do a hybrid remote on site. And again, we're slowly easing back into it, and each situation is different. So we have been continuing to stay busy, during this period.
Absolutely. And so that's what we're looking at right now, by the way, just so people can see on the screen. So this is kind of the first, screen, so to speak, of our FTS, or Field Technician Services Portal. And I want to just reiterate what you were saying is the purpose of this is because, our FTS team is just so knowledgeable. When we go on site to do the install, we're there to help you and your staff. We're there to showcase Zeta. We're there to convert your data. And as you were saying, if we're going to go and rig up hardware cables or wait for progress bars, it's not utilizing the best, you and your team are not utilizing the best of RCS's team in RCS's time. So the idea here with this portal is, as you were saying, to collect this information so that we can get on site knowing what we have to do, but also really spend more time with the staff and teach them how to learn RCS products. So let's talk a little bit about this portal, and this is on the client side too, right?
Yeah, and what it will be, and you're exactly right, Nate. I want to reiterate, the point of that is that, yes, we can go there and we can load audio, we can watch progress bars, but the expertise on what we want to do on site is train and give knowledge and spend the time. So if we kind of look at what you'd see is, this is just WRCS. This is our internal. So you would, when you started a new installation with us or a project, you would get a login, and you would log into this page, and it'd be your call letters. And we have multiple projects in here because sometimes you have multiple installations. And the idea being that you may do one install at one point, you may do another one down the way. And so this will also be an archive to help you with some of the information from past projects and for us internally. So it's a mechanism that's not only going to help our side, sales, our manufacturing team, our installation team, support team, but the customer as well. Having this information in one space is going to be great for all involved. So if we click on a project, it'd most likely be an order number of some kind. And if we open one up here, you'll see some things like due date, and that's more going to be the due date of which we want you to get this information in. Because one of the things we want to do is if you get this information in, we can start sort of building your system and have it more pre-canned and pre-packaged before it even gets on site. You know, it's sort of that we can script some things, we have some templates, but a lot of this we have to get the information from. We have to know how many different computers you have. You know, we can add a computer and there's different types. You know, is this an on-air? Is it a sequencer? We need to know the names because, you know, it's a unique name in your structure. That's one of the first things. IP addresses, if they're there, the different sort of devices that you may be using. We've put the most common ones in here. If you select all this stuff, we can knock out a lot of the basic structures on these machines before they even ship. Yeah. And of course, then we can start getting specialization on that. Same with stations. If we look at a station, you know, down here, if we added a new station, you know, we have the call letters, of course, the machine name, the format. This is more to help sort of us, you know, prepare, because what we want is, of course, if this is a news talk station versus a country station, the way in which our staff, the installation team and the training prepares for that to know, okay, if we have 3 news talk stations, of course, we need to maybe gear our training sessions a little different. You're not going to need to know how to voice track, and you're not going to have to know how to seg music, but you're going to have to know how to do a live show and that. So the more information we have, the better we can specifically not only build the system, but prepare our team and cater it to the specifics of your stations or stations.
And it's the communication aspect. That's I've always been preaching that, the idea that, you know, between the client and us, if there's a open communication, you know, we get more stuff done. We know we can fix things ahead of time and get things configured as well.
And again, and just a couple other, and the more that always one of the questions we have is we get these things shipped, it arrives on site, and people are excited. Why wouldn't they be excited? So that is a great system. Look at this stuff. So if it's just generic, they can't get in and do anything with it. If we can get them the system a little more built before we arrive on site, or even so, again, we'll create accounts. If we had users already, they can get it up on the benches and a staging area, get in and start poking around, because I know that's how I've always learned the best. And a lot of our customers as well, actually doing it, you know, getting in and putting your hands on it. And if we have a system that's more ready for them to start putting their hands on, and we can guide them remotely, again, that will maximize our time on site for the very down and dirty specific stuff. So that, you know, like, because it is every, you know, radio is so unique and it's so flexible, and even one format, a country station, even between the same company, their facility may be completely different, their formats, even the music, even if it's different, how they're getting it delivered, how they interact with it could be specific to that site. So what we want to do is get all, you know, the foundation laid so we can spend the real time on, this is how we do this specific show. This is how we interface with our individual stuff in this market versus other markets. And the goal here is that this information, we've been gathering it anyways, but it may be through phone calls, it may be through emails, and it may be a much more lengthy process. This gives us a one-stop shop to have this for not only the customer, so that they can start creating this and know what auto load means and live metadata, and get a better idea of some of the terminology that we use specifically at RCS, and then allows our team to gather information and build the system and become even more prepared. More information. My team would love it. They would love if we could walk in the door, train you one day and put you on the air. We know that's not sometimes realistic, but no, we want to get it done. If we a ticking clock in the back of our head when we arrive. Okay, we have to fly out here Friday, and there is 100 to 200 things that we need to get done. If we can knock out more than what we're doing more ahead of time and really spend the time fine tuning and do all the specialty cherry on top kind of stuff that we like to do, because we just don't want to get you on there. We want to show you all the really cool stuff that you get to demo, Nate, So I always hate when we get on site and they're like, wow, I saw this at the show, or I saw Nate show you this. Well, how about we just get some music and some spots playing first, and then we can show all the fancy stuff. And so, that's one of the goals of this, is to help get to that point.
Yeah. So what we're looking at here, and by the way, so we're live today with Brian Willard. He's head of our field technician services team, and he's the guy that helps schedules all of the upgrades, installs, all of that. But also he helps you configure all of the hardware and all the software as well. So if you have any questions for Brian, feel free to comment below. You can always direct message us as well. If you want to do that, we can answer those questions for you after our Facebook Live session. Of course, we do it every Thursday, 11 a.m. We broadcast live here on Facebook. So you're looking at right here is you're looking at essentially our brand new, go be released very soon, our Field Technician Services Portal. Again, the concept for this is to, communication, maximize efficiency. I'll just go throw in synergy because why not? It's a buzzword. And then really have it so we were saying with Brian that, our team, we want to showcase as many tips, tricks, how-tos with the software. And the more we have going into an install, the easier it's going to be. But also it's going to be the better for the client's team to go and actually get more information, ask more questions with that. So with this FTS portal, it's a way for us to communicate with the client to get more information in there. Let's pivot a little bit, Brian, and talk about the upgrade install process in general and how that works out. It makes my life easier when we talk to clients about the upgrade process because, and I told Brian all the time, I steal this. Brian's famous quote is, we'll make it work, because we will obviously make it work. That's what we want to do here. We want to make sure that you are comfortable, you're on the air, and all that good stuff. So, I always kind of say big, broad picture. We go on site, we train, we have multiple sessions depending on what your team is doing. So there could be an on-air team, there could be a production team, there could be a traffic team. And all these sessions, our FTS team is there to train everybody in doing so. But let's take a step back here. And again, any questions, feel free to comment below with Brian. So the upgrade process itself, let's very briefly talk about how that works for a brand new RCS client.
Well, and again, it ties into what we're doing here in the portal. There's a lot of information gathering at first. And you're right. When I say we'll make it work, it's usually, that's my line when they have a specific question on their system or something like that. And the great thing about our products, especially Zeta on the automation side, is the flexibility and what we can do to make it work. So tying that in, getting as much information ahead of time will help us design some of that scenarios, because there's a lot of customization we can do because how Zeta is built. It's very modern. It works on modern technologies. So when we get that information, that's the first thing. So usually, yes, as soon as you can get us this information, because we really want to get your equipment on site first. That's the first step. So getting it on site, getting it up and going, and then we can start sort of the remote process. We convert your data. We can, if you're coming from any other automation system, we have seen all of them out there. It's occasional to find one that may be, unique. And sometimes even after 15 years of doing this job, we're like, well, I've never heard of that one. So, but we have tools in place, not only from learning all these years from us, doing this, like I said, I'm 15 years. I got guys on my team, 20 years, 12 years. We have, over 40 years of experience just with our three most senior guys. So we've seen these automation. We have tips and tricks on how to convert your data and get it into Zeta. We will preserve as much as we can, marks, as we call, that's like your seg points, your crossfades, all that. So that's our first step, because you can't do anything unless you have audio. And then the next step is hardware. Of course, if we have audio in the system, we can't play it out, that sort of thing. So, and then we kind of go from the process. That's the first thing we'll do when we get on site. Make sure we have the audio in the system, make sure we can play it out. And then, specifics like if you have satellite GPIO configurations, make sure that all works. And then it's fine tuning the station logs, because that's sort of the part that we need you as the customers to do, because you're the one who needs to do your sound of the station. We can do sort of the science and get you the mechanisms, but we need to know. So you need to make sure that we're spitting out a log. So that's one of the first things we want to do. We want to get like a log playing in conjunction as soon as possible, just not for training purposes, but you to fine tune, because the goal of our installation is that you pot up the new system, pot down. That's the simple, and nobody knows the difference. I always refer to our team, we're kind of like referees in sports. If we do our job 100% correct, never going to talk about us or hear about us. So that's kind of how we like it. And so that's the quick overview, of course. And then getting it on the air is probably the thing we want to do as soon as we can. We don't want to rush to it, but because I said earlier, the best way to learn is to do it. And as much as we sit in training classes and teach people, they learn more that first day on the new system. And having a member of our team that day and maybe a day after that or 2 days, that's even more helpful because more questions come. And then we can do some of the specialty stuff. So just looping back to why this information gathering is so important, it's so that we can have that day or two to hold, not just hold your hand, but to answer some of the questions that may pop up. We hate to.
That's what that stop button does.
Right. Yeah. And we hate, we've had to do it because of circumstances. We've had to put a station on the air, run to the car, get to the airport just in time, but we hate that.
Yeah.
We would much rather get you on the air like on a Tuesday or a Wednesday of the final week we're there, and then sit with you during your morning show. And come Friday, if we're just part of the team, and you just come by, we sit by, get coffee to say, hey, Brian, it's good to see you. And just go in and don't ask any questions or ask a very specialized question. That's when we know we've done our job. If somebody's asking questions, after, well, how do I put in a voice track or how do I load a link or a spot? We haven't done our job. If the last day is, how do I do some of this fancy stuff or show me Zeta to go or show me how I can, broadcast from the boat like your famous one, or how can I automate everything? How can I sit at home and hit something on my phone and bring up a remote broadcast or basically run a game from a play-by-play, run it from the stadium? When we're getting into that specialized stuff, that knows we've done our job, and that's what we're trying to get to.
So 2 things I want to kind of piggyback on there. Number one, I always personally like to also, during that kind of first stage of, getting the station, the logs and all of that, I really like to tell users to do some maintenance, do some your own kind of almost like auditing your own station. Look at those duplicate audio files. Do you need certain audio files? Check your numbering scheme or something like that, because now is the time when you bring in a new system to kind of reorganize a little bit and collect, your data and your thoughts. So I always really encourage users to take a kind of an overall view of their snapshot of their automation system to see if there's anything they can kind of tweak or improve, because now it's time to do it. The second thing too is I always tell clients, ask questions, because there's such a wealth of information, as you were saying with the FTS team, that, ask those questions. If you want to know how to do something, don't be afraid to ask. We've seen it all. We've seen all these different scenarios. It could be something as simple as just, talking about, I read somewhere, heard somewhere that I heard Nate talking about X, Y, and Z on his Facebook Live. Can we configure that? Or, hey, I always thought that this is a little tedious to go and take an element and put it into my automation system from an FTP site. Is there a way we can download that automatically and set up an auto load? And maybe you don't even know auto load's a thing, just a way to set up that automatic process. So stuff like that is a really great asset. So make sure you ask questions, because it's just, again, we have answers for you, but we don't know if you don't ask.
And you're exactly right, Nate. And it pretty much never do I have to say no. Or one of my guys, when somebody asks that, hey, you're right, can we automate this? Sure. Can you send a TCP command to control this satellite receiver? Of course. And that's one of the great things about Zeta. And it's one of the things that still, as many times as I've done this, as many installs, going there and being able to, answer those questions and show somebody a better way or something that they've had to manually do, it's great, and we get to experience that probably more than anybody, even more than you, Nate, and some of our support folks, how great our product is in the field and how happy the users are when we put it in. And you're right. You're right. I say we'll make it work because I haven't run across something with Zeta that we haven't been able to make work. And it's a great team collective too, because just because I may not know how to make it work, maybe you do, Nate, or maybe
Yeah.
one of the guys on my team does. Or, we have communication with people, all the way up to our CTO, Chip,
Mm-hmm.
we can ask him something. He writes programs or will even get involved. I can ask people across the world. We have great resources, who run Zeta in every part of this world, who work for RCS. So you're right. If you want to do something with one of our products, tell us what you want to do. And I'm pretty sure we'll be able to make it work in any scenario. If it maybe takes, writing a new enhancement, maybe we'll do that. But there's always something that we can do to make it work. And that's one of the great things about our products. And you're right, is one of the things that we really want to do on an installation. We can do those after the fact as well, but if we can get more information, if we can streamline the process and get all of the meat and potato stuff done, then we can really help you even go beyond and further with our products.
So we're kind of nearing our time here. So let's kind of recap a little bit for those who just kind of chimed in afterwards. So again, we're here with Brian Willard, head of our FTS Field Technician Services. I know FTS is just a lot easier to say. So going back to the beginning and talking about the overall process. So first things first, we've been doing installs once COVID-19 hit. We've been still doing installs. We just try to find a more efficient way on doing those, and sometimes a remote efficient way. And that's why we developed what you're seeing here. And this is our Field Technician Services portal from the client side. And what it is essentially is a way for clients to upload data, specifically like certain things like machine names, IP addresses, and really is a kind of a checklist, if you will, a project management checklist for you to essentially see where you are, both progress-wise, but also to help our Field Technician Services teams that we get on site. We have more information. So as Brian was saying, we're not sitting and kind of, plugging in cables or waiting on progress bars. We're there to help, our clients' teams. And when we're there on site, we do all the conversions, all of that good stuff. So we take, your current audio, your metadata, your logs, all of that good stuff. We'll convert it for you, get it running on the new Zeta system. And then we do kind of training sessions. So we'll go there and we can make it as specific or as generic as you want it to be. But as Brian and I were saying, the goal here is, ask questions, figure out workflows, desirable workflows. Maybe there's a certain task you didn't realize you could do. Definitely ask questions, talk to our team, and they'll be there every step of the way. So they'll get there early morning with the morning shows, work with them, get them on the air. And then, as Brian so eloquently put, our goal is that when our team leaves to go back to the airport, there's no questions, because you've asked all them and we've answered all them and we're good to go. And of course, obviously, I have to say it, but of course, if you do have any questions or if there is a workflow you forgot after the FTS team leaves, you can always reach out to RCS support and we can answer any questions for you as well. So a lot of really cool stuff going on there. Get your last minute questions in for Brian. But otherwise, thank you so much for the time, Brian. I really appreciate it. And if there's anything that you would take away from this chat we had with Brian is that, and again, I'm going to steal it. I steal it all the time. We'll make it work. It's one of the great things about RCS and Brian's motto is that we've seen a lot of different scenarios. We've seen a lot of unique scenarios and a lot of common scenarios. We don't care how you want to broadcast. We just want to make sure you're comfortable and it works the way you want it to work. And so, again, ask questions. And if there is something unique, we will make it work. So,
Exactly. And just
Brian,
to add
last
that,
comments?
we want to make it work too. That's one of the great things about, and again, when we leave, it's a partnership more than anything with our customers. And one thing you'll see when my team is on site, we're part of the radio station. We listen to it. We want it to succeed. So yes, we want it to make it work. We don't want to be listening on the drive home and hear a bad seg or a bad voice track or something like that. And even after the fact. So yes, always reach out. I always say, and if there's something you don't know how to do, call us, call support, email Nate, email myself. And if it's something that the software you can't figure out how to do, we'll make it work, or we will write an enhancement. We always want those things. Don't just sit on your hands. We're a team with our customers, and we treat it that way, especially in in my group of guys because we get to know the customers and the stations very intimately. And we all come from radio backgrounds, and we love radio. We love radio people, and we love doing this job. And we want you to sound good, just not because it's our job, but because we take a lot of pride in when we do that. And still to this day, doing an installation, I take a lot of pride and a responsibility and take ownership of your stations. And that's one of the great things about RCS, I can say, is that I think everybody from our support, from our development to Nate, takes a lot of pride in what we do. And we're a team. Like I said, we're not there to boss you around. We're there to help you. And you, more than anything, can make your install and your product better. And we always want to be there to help if you need it.
That was well said, Brian.
Thank you.
I couldn't put any better than that. By the way, just reinforcing one last thing that Di was posting on our comments section here. Again, there are options with COVID-19. I know if you're concerned about your upcoming install or you're looking at Zeta and you're worried about how that process would work, there are options. We can still, I said we're doing some on-sites once again now that cities are starting to open up again. We do have remote options or a hybrid solution, a mixture of both. So those are coming down the pipeline as well. And we'll leave it with this, Brian, because Di asked. Di, of course, is a huge Miami Dolphins fan. I say sarcastically. Leave it with this, Brian. Will the Lions win the Super Bowl this year?
It's the easiest question you're going to ask me all day, Nate. That's a hard no. Huh?
I was going to do a pun too, Brian. I was going to say I must ask you a question.
That's how you want to end after all that.
That's how I want to end our Facebook Lives.
It's just how radio is. Yes, exactly. Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Brian, for the time. I really appreciate it. Again, any questions for us, you can always comment. You can direct message us live at rcsworks.com. You can email me. You can email Brian. We're always here to help. And I will end it with this. Worst case scenario, we'll make it work. So thank you so much. I'll see you next Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern time right here on Facebook Live. Be safe. Have a great weekend. And by the way, before I forget, thank you all those essential workers out there. Thank you so much for your time and dedication. Really do appreciate it. I don't give you enough love on these Facebook Lives, so I want to make a point to say thank you again to those essential workers. And we'll see you next Thursday. Have a great one. Bye-bye.